Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kayendeke Miriam, and I'm a social scientist with the AMIS, Antimicrobials in Society Study in Uganda. So I'll be presenting some. All right. Hello. So I'll be presenting us some preliminary results from some ethnographic observations and interviews that were held within the livestock sector. So I'm really excited about to be here today to share our story on this ongoing research. We have been conducting research on AMR in Uganda across a series of sites. But today I want to talk about one site in specific and talk through just one idea that we are working on. So this one idea that we are working on basically is an idea that we think is cropping up from our results, and we've termed it quick farming. So this emerges from the larger AMIS project, which is thinking through antibiotics as a kind of infrastructure that enables everyday life. We were originally attempting to understand antimicrobial use and whether the narrative of AMR even mattered in Uganda. Ugandan policymakers have been forced into a situation where they had to start thinking about AMR because this is a global pressure from global public health to care about AMR, despite the speculative nature of AMR policy formulations. But this has become a serious policy concern in Uganda, not because of data that suggests it is somehow a crisis in our country, but because there is considerable funding to pursue policy and map it. So our research really emerges from this story. We started with a very basic survey, which we called an antibiotic drug pile sorting survey, to simply understand what was actually occurring and going on with farmers and antibiotic use in suburban Kampala. So we visited about 115 poultry and piggery farms. We found some really interesting things, and I want to walk through some of these findings with us today. One of the major findings we found is that we've been seeing that antibiotic use is very much linked to issues of livelihood, precarity, and specifically unspoken rules about how to achieve commercial farming. So this morning, I want to walk through the notion of something that, for a moment, we are calling quick farming. Or maybe we could just call it modern farming. It's a concept of modernity plus neoliberalization. So in the Ugandan government, the state has been pulling back its services and encouraging farmers as individual to encourage farmers develop individual farm enterprises. That is a way to be a progressive and competitive citizen earner. So they want people to engage in commercial farming. Now, we tend to think of an African farmer as emerging from a long lineage of farmers with incredible ingrained knowledge about raising animals. But really, these are people who live within cities. Even though they've had an experience of watching their families raising chickens and pigs in a very subsistence manner, but they have no experience in how to raise animals at a scale that would allow them to sell and be competitive. These city folk with no experience with raising animals themselves, they've come to to it now because it is an enterprise activity being promoted by the government. But the government is dictating only a very limited toolkit for being a farmer. And this toolkit is part of a military initiative that is called Operation Wealth Creation. And this toolkit is part of basically a military operation that is called Operation Wealth Creation. This is a project run by the military. It is about Ugandans moving to modern farming systems, which is premised on the introduction of exotic breeds, which is basically a new breed from the breed that from abroad that is larger, it yields more, and is more productive. But the production is only successful if you give your animal antibiotics and concentrate feeds. Part of Operation Wealth Creation is therefore also funding new outreach veterinary workers who are not trained veterinarians, but trained specifically in how to raise exotics via antibiotic use and concentrate feeds. So these concentrate feeds are packets that come from Europe that are supplements to encourage growth, but are not actually food. They farmers basically stop giving food like maize to pigs and chicken, and instead just feed them concentrates, because they are committed to raising uniform-sized animal protein, not necessarily the animal we call the pig or the chicken. Part of the recipe of Operation Wealth Creation is about space shrinking. Antibiotics are necessary because this is a peri-urban environment where space is a highly sought commodity. Farmers are instructed to stack both poultry and piggery in order to go commercial and make a profit. Operation Wealth Creation is a kind of formula or a recipe. But this seems an untested formula. And what our research seems to be tracking is that as many people fail following this recipe as they succeed. So I want to talk through an ethnography story briefly to share what farmers are going through on ground. So I visited a pig farm operated by two housewives in their mid-30s. The farm structure was situated at the edge of a small plot's boundary. Right beside it was a heap of garbage, presumably a dumping site for household residue. This small plot was shared by residents of a rental housing premise where these two ladies rent and reside with their separate families too. Now they both owned 9 pigs. They had been farming for close to 15 years and boasted of the profits. They told me that exotic farming is lucrative. An exotic breed could litter more than 16 piglets a year, and were able to grow at a terrific speed to make quicker profits. They said farming had offered them unemployment as well as supplemented on the meager household incomes from their husbands, who were casual laborers. In the recent past, they had sold off each pig litter at 80,000 shillings, that is Uganda shillings, and an adult pig at 500,000 shillings. This transaction enabled them meet school dues for their school-going children. Pig farming is not only progressive, but also builds anxiety in these farmers. Their greatest fear is a reoccurrence of swine fever. It is most feared and can wipe out most of the pigs in the area. These ladies are ever vigilant for rumors of swine fever within the village, which, if heard, creates a panic to sell off their prematurely due animals. Swine fever has no cure, they say, but we call the veterinarian in such crisis to advise and decide on a way forward. He can choose to inject them with an antibiotic or advise us to look for quick market. The festive seasons too come along with animal thieves, and this keeps them on guard all night. The repercussions are major for farmers. The health of such families largely depends on the health of the pigs or the poultry that they're taking care of. This makes modern farming precarious. Sorry, I'm taking you through these slides. So finally, our take-home message is, from our observations, we see that antibiotics seem to be a quick fix for limited infrastructure. For example, our veterinary services are really limited. We have no diagnostics for common infections, and the medicines and alternatives to these medicines are scarce and uncertain. Antibiotics are a kind of care amidst scarcity. They kind of offer care amidst scarcity. They are used by veterinary services to show that they've really cared for a sick animal or even an animal that is hoping to get an infection. Farmers are not using antibiotics irrationally. They use antibiotics to support and care for their animals amidst precarious livelihoods. Antibiotics make everyday life possible. Thank you.